Hi, this is Shweta Rai. I secured 99.33 percentile in CAT 2019 and I'm here to help you in the final leg of your preparation for CAT 2021. I'll share with you my exam strategy, things that went well for me and also the things that did not go so well for me so that it can help you formulate your own CAT exam strategy. So are you ready to get started? Let's rewind to exam day. The night before the exam. The night before the exam, a lot of things you have to keep in mind. First of all, do not eat very heavy food because you might feel bloated or you might feel heavy that day as well as the next day. So just eat light, eat fruits. And also I would suggest do not drink a lot of water because you cannot afford to go to bio breaks during the exam. So do not drink a lot of water, but do not dehydrate yourself as well. So that's what I did. And then on the night before the exam, on the day before the exam instead, I just revised my own formulae diary that I had made. I kept on revising my formulae because I could not afford to go wrong on any formula as such, even on a plus or a minus, because that would then cost you a lot of time and a lot of marks. Then I just, on the last day, basically I just relaxed myself. I did not give any mocks. I did not go through any questions. I just revised some of the formula and some of the concepts that I had planned that I would revise on the last day, basically. And another thing too that I would suggest, do not revise something that you are weak on, because on the last day you just leave anything that you are weak on. So sometimes it so happens that people are weak on a certain topic. So if you are, say, in DILR, if you are weak on sports and tournaments, because that is what is the weak part for most people. So do not revise sports and tournaments thinking that let me give this a last try. No, just leave it. If you must have given a lot of mocks till now. So if in those mocks you decided that that is a weak part for you, then just leave it now. Now is not the time to revisit it. So just leave it now. Just revise the things that you feel that you're confident in and that you feel might need a revision. But do not go on any topic that you feel you are very weak in. It's time to leave it now. Fine. So even in the exam day, just leave that topic or that concept. You can take it like at the end. So another thing that I did before the exam was that adjusting my body clock. So that is something I had been doing around since around 10 days before the exam. So I adjusted my body clock to be active during the slot that I had my exam on. So I had my exam in the morning slot from 9 to 12. So I made sure all the mocks that I gave before the exam were in that slot. So basically I made sure my body was active during that slot. So I woke up the day before the exam also. I woke up at around 6 because the next day also I had to wake up at around 6. Morning of the exam. So on the day of the exam, I woke up at 6. I had my alarm set and I had adjusted my body clock accordingly. So basically I did not really need an alarm. I automatically myself woke up at 6. Then I just did my morning routine. I had my green tea. I had my green tea while revising my formula diary because that is something I had to make sure I was spick and span. I could not afford to go wrong on the formulas again. And my dad was the one who went with me to drop me to the center, and the center was not very far from my house. So even then we left at around 7. So my exam was from 9. We reached there at around 7:30 to 7:40. Some things to keep in mind. Even though it was specifically mentioned in the rules that you cannot wear any sort of jewelry or basically it was written you cannot wear any sort of jewelry or any iron items. I ended up wearing a clutcher, which was not necessarily any of these. It was a rubber clutcher, but on the center they asked me to remove my clutcher. So basically I had to make a ponytail there. So you make sure you do not wear any jewelry, any clutcher, any pins. You can at most have a rubber band in your hair. That is it. Another thing is that do not carry anything. Basically you cannot carry a watch. Do not carry. So basically at our time I ended up carrying pens and papers, which they asked me to keep outside because inside they provided us with pens and papers. We could not carry water bottles or basically we could not carry anything. All we had to carry was our admit card, identity card, and 2 passport size photos. So this is something that most people forget. Do not forget to carry 2 passport size photos. Like even if you forget, they give you the chance to give it to them on a later date, but it's all obviously advised not to forget that and keep that in your pouch, whatever. And do carry a pouch. So do not carry these things loose in your hands, because you know you tend to forget, or these things might slip out while you're walking or something. So carry a pouch where you have only these things: no pen, no pencil, no watch, nothing, no calculator. So these are the things that you should have with yourself on the day of the exam. Now reaching the examination center. So at the examination center, as I mentioned, I had my dad dropping me off at the center, and this is what I would recommend, to have somebody drop you there, because it's always motivating and supporting to have somebody known to you at that place of the center. So I remember most of the people had somebody dropping them there. I would recommend not to go by a public transport, at least like a metro or something, because you never know when that can break down, right? And you do not want to risk it on the final day of your exam. So another thing, reach the exam well in time, well before time. You can have something to eat on the way, but then like reach well in time. So when I reached there, of course there were a lot of people. Everybody was with somebody. Everybody was, I believe, with their guardians or with their friends. Some people were revising certain notes. Some people were discussing certain questions, which I did not. So I just kept sitting in the car till the gates opened. I just went to see my roll number and my room, and then I came back. I sat in the car till the gates opened. And then another thing that I noticed was, as the gates opened, people rushed to the gate as if like somebody would block them from entering. So do not do that. You know, you, of course, when you have reached there, so they will open the gates well in advance so that you can enter in time. So do not rush. You do not have to, because of course all that increases the anxiety, right? So take your time, as and when the rush reduces down, go and enter the hall. Now, as you enter the hall, they'll give you a certain guidelines. They'll just check you. So as I mentioned, do not wear clutches or pens. Like if you're having that, they will just ask you to keep them aside, and then you will enter the hall. Now, when you enter the hall, they take you in like around 45 minutes before the final exam. So you can enter, you can go to the washroom, you can have water, just sit down, relax, just do not discuss anything. Do not discuss anything about the paper. Basically, do not talk to anyone there, because you never know what mindset the other person has. And like basically, so just be calm, relax, sit by yourself, just try to revise anything you want in your mind, just relax yourself in whatever way you want. So while waiting for the paper, I tried to revise the strategies that I had made for each of the sections. How will I go about attempting the sections? And like as was the rumor that, like not the rumor, as was the speculation that IIM Kozhikode was making the paper that year, and it was speculated that verbal would be relatively easier. So I had in my mind that, you know, verbal to easily ho jayega, and then I'll gradually move on to DILR and quants as the set goes. But surprisingly, when I received the paper, I went through the first verbal question, and it was like a little too tough. So, but I thought ki maybe a question tough aayoga. So I just went on, I did the paper, I did the first question, first passage. Then the second passage, again, I found it to be relatively tougher than the last a few years verbal paper. So suddenly I was like shaken, because I had come with the mindset that verbal easily ho jayega, and then I'll focus my energy on DILR and quants. But then verbal was something that actually shook me ki are itna tough aa gaya. And then another thing that I had in my mind was कि मुझे ही टफ लग रहा है या एक्चुअली टफ है. लाइक आर दी अदर पीपल ऑल्सो फाइंडिंग इट टफ, और लाइक इज इट जस्ट मी हु आई एम नॉट एबल टू सॉल्व द वर्बल पेपर. लाइक नॉट एबल टू सॉल्व, आई वुड नॉट से नॉट एबल टू सॉल्व, बट आई वॉज नॉट वेरी कॉन्फिडेंट. ऑफ कोर्स इन वर्बल यू कैन नॉट बी totally confident of the answers, but I was really nervous about the verbal paper. So while attempting the verbal paper, I had made a certain strategy, and one part of that strategy was that I would attempt the entire paper in order, but I would do the parajumbles at the end, because they have a very little chance of getting correct, because then you have to arrange 5 sentences in the correct order, and you cannot, like even if you give in your time and arrange the 3 sentences correctly, but if you mess up with the other 2, you'll end up getting a 0. So I had thought of doing that at the end, but while giving the exam facing like difficult RCs, I somehow thought that maybe I should try doing the parajumbles first. So I went on there. So basically this is something that I would suggest you not to do, because that was the strategy that I had made after giving so many mock exams, right? And so many of the mock exams had mock exams have some of the exams have a tough verbal section, some have a tough DILR section, so there is a good mix of it. So I had made that strategy after giving so many mocks, but on the final day I got so nervous, I changed my strategy. And then of course, like in the end, I scored the lowest in verbal only. So I think it was because I changed my strategy. So I would suggest you not to change your strategy, like be a little flexible as to, like, of course CAT is known for giving you surprises. So you cannot be totally rigid as to ye socha hai to yehi karna hai. You can be a little flexible, but do not change your strategy like, upside down. So that is one mistake that I made. Okay, so as goes the CAT exam, we'll start with the VARC section. I'll tell you my strategy for VARC, starting with the RC passages. So my strategy was that I would read the questions first. Instead of reading the passage, I would read the questions and the options first. Okay, like every question has 4 options. I would read the questions and the options first. I would mark down what are the important parts that I have to finally answer, and then I would read the passage. So this helps in a lot of ways. So basically in RC questions, there are 3 types of questions. First is they give you a line or a phrase and they ask you questions related to that. Second is they can ask you the tone or the central theme of the passage. And the third is they can ask you which of the following is not included in the passage. Now I'll move on to quant, which is the last section, where again the strategy is to try and attempt maximum number of questions. And again there's a little bit of tweak here. So here what you have to do is, suppose there are 24 questions. You in the first go, you only do the questions which you are totally sure of that you'll be able to pull off within 1.5 to 2 minutes. Another thing to note in mind is that every question has to be done within 1.5 to 2 minutes, right? And you do not, as I mentioned earlier, you do not have to use a calculator at all. The on-screen calculator is just there to waste your time. Now suppose you read question 1 and it seems a pretty easy question to you, तो उसको सॉल्व कर लो, फाइन. क्वेश्चन 2, इफ़ यू थिंक दैट ये नहीं आता है, या सपोज आपको सेट्स में प्रॉब्लम है या किसी भी चीज़ में जो रेशियोज है उसमें प्रॉब्लम है, सो मार्क इट फॉर रिव्यू, मार्क फॉर रिव्यू, ठीक है, मार्क दिस क्वेश्चन फॉर रिव्यू, डू नॉट डू इट राइट नाउ. इफ़ द थर्ड क्वेश्चन, इफ़ यू फील कि ये तो शायद बिल्कुल ही नहीं आता, इसको कुछ भी मार्क नहीं करो, ठीक है. नाउ ऐसे करके ओनली डू द क्वेश्चन दैट यू आर टोटली श्योर ऑफ कि हाँ ये तो मेरे को आता है. Now in this, when I say you're totally sure of, it is totally normal कि आप कोई question उठाओ, आपको लगता है वो हो जाएगा but वो नहीं हो. It is totally normal, it happens with everyone. So do not panic कि अरे मैंने question उठा लिया और मेरे को तो सारे sure वाले ही करने थे. अगर 1.5 मिनट हो गया है and if you're thinking कि नहीं होगा तो छोड़ दो, it's okay. ठीक है, do not panic. Escalation of commitment नहीं करना है कि उठा लिया तो करना ही है, right? Now, and if you feel कि थोड़ा सा अच्छा, like maybe you approached it wrong, but now you know कि correct approach क्या है, तो ठीक है, उसमें अगर 1 मिनट और लग रहा है तो थोड़ा सा extra time देके कर लो उसको. But if you feel कि नहीं होगा तो just leave it at that point. So basically the basic strategies, first go में suppose there are 24 questions, you do only the ones that you are totally sure of. Suppose आपसे ऐसे 8 ही question हुए, नो प्रॉब्लम, 8 एटलीस्ट वो वाले क्वेश्चन हो गए जो आपको टोटल श्योर थे. अदरवाइज़ क्या होता है ना, 24 क्वेश्चंस है, अगर आप एक साथ सारे करते जाते हो ना, सो यू समटाइम्स टेंड टू गेट स्टक इन सम वेरी डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चंस, जिस वजह से आप खाली 21 क्वेश्चन पे पहुंचते हो एंड द टाइम इज़ अप. सो बेसिकली लास्ट के 2-3 क्वेश्चन आप देख भी नहीं पाए. एंड व्हाट इफ द क्वेश्चंस, दोज क्वेश्चंस वर वेरी इजी, राइट? व्हाट इफ यू आर वेरी अनलकी और आपके सारे इजी क्वेश्चन ही लास्ट में थे. सो टू अवॉइड दैट, बिकॉज दैट इज समथिंग जो आप फिर उसके लिए कुछ नहीं कर सकते. सो टू अवॉइड एनी सच मिसहैप, व्हाट यू डू इज फर्स्ट गो में सारे 24 क्वेश्चंस देखो और वो करते जाओ जो आपको श्योर है। सेकेंड गो में वो करो जो आपको थोड़ा बहुत डाउट है कि शायद हो बट शायद टाइम लगे, तो यू हैव मार्क देम फॉर रिव्यू। सेकेंड गो में वो वाले करो। नाउ थर्ड गो में ओनली दोज क्वेश्चंस आर रिमेनिंग जिनसे आपको डर लग रहा है, जिनसे आपको लग रहा है कि शायद तो ये तो नहीं आता है। सो सिर्फ वही क्वेश्चन बचे ना, अगर टाइम अप हो भी जाए तो एनी हाउ आपने वो तो कर लिए जिसका आपको श्योर था। अब जो बचे हैं, सपोज ऐसे 4 क्वेश्चन बचे हैं, तो इनमें या सपोज 6 क्वेश्चन भी बचे हैं, सो जस्ट वो वाले 6 आप उनमें ट्राई दो। होता है एक दो भी हो गए तो वेल एंड गुड, एटलीस्ट यू हैव डन द वंस दैट यू वर टोटली श्योर ऑफ, एंड फिर इसमें से जितने होते हैं उतने होते हैं, अदरवाइज इट्स डन। सो द ओनली स्ट्रैटेजी इज डू इट इन phases, do not do it in one go at all, and of course try to reach to the last question in every way possible. Do not extend the timing on a particular question, ठीक है, कि नहीं हो रहा तो ठीक है और ट्राई कर लेते हो, और ट्राई कर लेते हो। 2 मिनट, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा 2.5 मिनट, नॉट मोर देन दैट ऑन एनी वन क्वेश्चन, बिकॉज देन यू विल बी कॉम्प्रोमाइजिंग ऑन एनी अदर क्वेश्चन विच माइट टर्न आउट टू बी ईजियर, राइट। एंड मार्क्स तो ईजी क्वेश्चन टफ क्वेश्चन दोनों के मार्क्स सेम है, राइट। सो इफ यू हैव टू मैक्सिमाइज योर मार्क्स, यू हैव टू यू नो फोकस ऑन द ईजियर वंस मोर, राइट। So now finishing the paper. So as I mentioned, because of a few mistakes that I made, I was not able to reach to the last question. So the timer got up while I was still left for 3 more questions to do. So I felt a little anxious as to like time up ho gaya, 3 questions chhut gaya. But fine, I was like so tired and so dehydrated by all of this that I was feeling that I could not think of anything. So I just thought of going out. So I went out. I did not talk to anyone, but then I did hear people saying कि अरे VRC कितना टफ था. So I felt a little relaxed because as I said when I was giving the paper, I was of the opinion कि मेरे को ही टफ लग रहा है क्या या फिर actually टफ है, क्योंकि what we had heard is IM के VRC थोड़ा easy बनाता है and मेरे को टफ लग रहा था. So I was like doubting on myself. But when I heard people saying कि हाँ मतलब सबको ही टफ लगा था, I was like a little relaxed कि चलो ठीक है. So when I went out, I had my dad waiting for me outside. I had asked him to bring me a few juices because I knew I'll be very exhausted after the end of 3 hours. So I had a few juices. Then I told him about the paper. I told him that I could not complete 3 questions. While in the mocks, I was able to complete all the quant questions. So that was my biggest regret. So, and the reason I told you was because I was using the on-screen calculator and because I goofed up my strategy that I had made that I would do only the questions that I was totally sure of. So again, I would repeat to not do that. Then while in the car itself, I called 2 of my Unacademy teachers. I basically told them that VRC tough laga mujhe, and also they were like, yeah, fine, we also heard it, so you relax. And then they told me that they'll be releasing the answer key at night. So I was like, fine, I'll check it only when they release it. So then I went back home, I slept, and then I took rest, and then at night I saw the paper, and then I calculated my score. I shared with them my score, and then they told me that I would be scoring 99 plus, but then how much would that be, like 99 point kitna, wo of course was not clear. So, and because not all questions, especially in the VRC sections, questions are subject to interpretation. So, you cannot exactly predict कि ये सही है, ये गलत है. So, but 99 plus at least एक बार secure हो गया था. I was a little relaxed. So, that is how my exam went. So, this is where the the exam preparation ended. So moving on to the result day, it was like speculated that the result would be out like either today or tomorrow or day after. So the day when it was the today that I'm mentioning, it was not out. So it was the next day, and it was like कि 1-2 दिन में आ ही जाएगा. So fine, it was not, and generally as per the pattern, the result used to be out by 5 PM every year. So 5 बज गए अगले दिन भी. I was like ठीक है अब नहीं आ रहा है. So I was like returning from office, and while on my way I received a call from again my same Unacademy teacher. He was like कि result आ गया, कितना आया? So I was like अरे अभी कब आया? अभी तो 5 बजे मैंने चेक किया था, नहीं आया था. So he was like कि बस अभी आया है. So I just quickly came back and I typed in, and then I found that I scored 99.33 percentile. So I was happy. I was like, I don't know, sir had told me that I might score 99.5. after all the blunders that I had made, but I scored 99.33. So I was like, fine. My only aim was to get in some good colleges. So I just informed them. He was like, I just informed all my friends and my family, and everybody was happy because like I had finally made up my decision that I'll be leaving my job and going for an MBA. And then I finally knew that I had the score that I could safely do that. So I was really happy about it. And then was the time to wait for the shortlist and the calls and all. So as I mentioned, there was one teacher from Unacademy who I was constantly in touch with. So here I would like to take a minute to give a special thanks to Sameer Sardana sir for going out of his way, for always motivating me that I'll be able to do it, and for like, you know, till the exam day he called me because he believed in me that I would have scored well. So thank you, sir. You are one of the reasons that I am here. So thank you for being there, and thank you for being who you are. So this brought back a lot of memories, and all the best to all of you guys who are giving the paper this year. I'm sure the strategies that I shared helped you somewhere, in some way or the other. Please do not repeat the mistakes that I made, and the pointers that I told you to keep in mind, please keep those in mind, because you know almost everybody knows everybody knows the same amount of questions. It is just the strategy that matters, because you know, if you give double the time to solve the same paper, I'm sure everybody would be able to solve it. So solving it in that much amount of time with the correct frame of mind and a correct strategy is what makes the difference. So make sure you refine your strategy, keeping in mind the pointers that I have shared. Test yourself with the test series on Unacademy. You can use the code CTWT to get 10% off on the subscriptions. Link is in the description below. So guys, go and do check it out. So now I would like to tag Saurabh Sinha, who's another topper and my fellow IIM Calcutta batchmate. So to rewind to his exam day to share with you the strategies that worked for him and what did not. So that's a wrap for today. Thank you guys.